Welcome to the Daily Fantasy 5 for this Sunday, June 30th. This is episode 132, and we are bringing you the 5 things you need to know every day in the world of fantasy sports. Today is no different. We have one story out of Major League Baseball, and then we're going to cover a couple NFL mock drafts to get ready for the fantasy drafting season, which starts really next month, which would be tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, in tomorrow's show, I'm going to cover all of the NBA free agency news. I'm recording this show around noon Eastern time, and nothing is official yet in the NBA. We've heard a lot of rumors, but we're going to cover all the NBA moves tomorrow. So that'll be on tomorrow's show. Please, before we get started, check out our sponsor, www.mathradio.com. If you have a child between the ages of 7 and 17, help them get better grades, improve their test scores, and even get into college by visiting www.mathradio.com and picking up an online math course for as little as $9.99. Once again, that is www.mathradio.com. All right. So our baseball story is another Yankees injury. I feel like the Yankees have a new injured player every single day. First baseman Luke Voit, injured an oblique running the bases yesterday. He ended up safe at second on a very, very awkward slide, but he pulled an oblique. He's landing himself on the injured list. He's had a nice year so far, batting .280 with 17 home runs and 50 RBIs. So not bad there out of Luke Voit, but he'll be out for a while. If they let us know a timetable tomorrow, I will let you know as well. All right, so that's all the fantasy news. Let's talk about our mock drafts. I did two 12-team mock drafts, snake drafts, with PPR as the setting. So a full point per reception. So your players who catch the ball more often are going to be more highly valued here. What was kind of different about this draft than before, is I did one mock draft where I had the last pick, the 12th pick overall, which I don't like. And I did another draft where I had the first overall pick, which I also don't like. But I found that I really, really preferred when I drafted first as opposed to last. So let me break down the teams. In my 12-team mock where I drafted 12th, I ended up drafting two wide receivers at the turn. I drafted Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown, 12th and 13th. I thought Antonio Brown was a decent value there, and I thought Juju was a bit of a reach according to what everybody else is doing. I think you can pick him up a little bit later, but he was the best wide receiver left on my board, and I didn't like any of the running backs there. So I went Juju and Antonio. So my wide receivers are absolutely stacked at the top of this team. All right, so the problem with drafting last is that I felt like I was reaching for my guys, this entire draft. And then the players who, had decent value where I was picking, I really didn't like. So I ended up drafting James White as the 36th player overall, which I think is a bit of a reach for him. He usually goes at least in the 40s. So he ends up as my RB1. And then Tayshaun Diggs, I ended up taking as my I took 3 wide receivers before I took my second running back. So I don't love that. I'm very, very, very heavy at wide receiver. Took Diggs at number 37. I thought that was a bit of a reach too, but I mean, he was my highest rated player on the board. So I went ahead and I grabbed him. I did like picking up Tariq Cohen and Miles Sanders in rounds 5 and 6 at picks 60 and 61. Although I'd much rather have Cohen as my RB3 or a flex play than having to count on him for number 2, because I certainly don't want to count on Miles Sanders as number 3. He is much more of a lottery ticket. He will be in a timeshare at worst with Howard coming over from the Bears to the Eagles. I think Sanders might eventually get that job, but it's certainly not a definite. He could have a timeshare situation all year long with Howard. So we'll see about that. At pick 84, I ended up getting a Cook from New Orleans. He kind of fell to me at this spot. I wasn't planning on taking a tight end this early. I wasn't sure McDonald would get back to me at my next pick at 108. So I went ahead and I took Cook, one of my tight ends that I really like at this point in the draft. So I got him at pick 84 overall. And then I took Corey Davis at 85. Again, I felt like I reached there for him. And I felt like I was forced to take Cook because I felt like I wouldn't get McDonald later. So, it didn't fall into place like I would have liked it to. In pick 108, I ended up getting Ronald Jones out of Tampa Bay. I thought that was a good value, maybe the one truly great value play I got in this whole draft. But I got him as my RB4, and again, he's another lottery pick, another lottery ticket. Who knows what he's really going to do this year? I just think he has more talent than Barber ahead of him in Tampa Bay. And then I went Carlos Hyde. Again, I've been drafting Carlos Hyde in almost every draft. I love having him. He's my RB5. At worst, I think he's a timeshare with Damian Williams in Kansas City, and I like, his chances of becoming the number 1 back there. He can actually catch the ball, even though most people don't think he can. I think he had 56 catches 1 year in San Francisco. So I like Carlos Hyde as my RB5. So I like my rounds 9 and 10 pick. It might be a little high for Hyde at 109, but I'll take it. Then I finally take my quarterback in round 11. I get Philip Rivers as my safe quarterback. And then to back him up, I took Hardman. I'm taking Hardman in pretty much every single league. He's going super late. I got him in, the 12th round here. Got him in, pick 135. That's pretty late to grab wide receiver who has the upside Hardman has. So I like that pick as well. If you don't know, he's the rookie that got drafted by Kansas City. So he should be the Hill replacement to this year. We'll see how he does there in Kansas City. And then I took my high upside quarterback. Whenever I take Rivers, I like to take Garoppolo or one of the other guys if I can get Trubisky or somebody like that who has a big upside. I went with Jimmy G. I think he has the ability to be a top quarterback this season. We'll see if he can get it done. And as my last pick, I wanted to go with another running back. I felt like I was very wide receiver heavy. So I took Madison out of the Minnesota Vikings. He is the backup for he's a back. So he's a number 2 play for what's his name, Cooks, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy forever. So I like that pick as well. We talked about him last week. All right. So I don't really love this. Let me just break it down. I end up as my starters with Juju and Antonio Brown. Diggs is my flex. Those are my top 3 wide receivers. Running back, I'm starting James White and Tariq Cohen. And then tight end, Jared Cook. And quarterback is going to be Rivers at the beginning of the year and Jimmy G if he takes it over. So I feel like I'm a little bit weak at running back in that situation. So I don't love going last in a snake draft 12-team format. All right, let's move over to where I pick first. Okay, still we're looking at a PPR draft here. 12 teams. I am going first. I like Ezekiel at the top of my board. No problem if you want to take Barkley or even McCaffrey or Kamara. But Elliott's my guy at number 1. I just think he has the ceiling to finish first. And then floor, I think his floor is, obviously top 3 as long as he doesn't get suspended or anything crazy this year. So I think the other guys carry a little bit more risk. So I like Elliott at number 1. And then on my back end, I get, when you have pick number 1, you get picks 24 and 25 when you come around the turn. I went with 2 wide receivers here. I went with Cooper, who I love, and Thielen. Both, I think, have the potential to finish in the top 10. So I think that's a good value here. I've got my number 1 running back. I've got 2 very high-end wide receivers to plug in those holes, and then I can move forward from there. Now, here's where I love my draft, really. Those first 3 picks, you can really, they're fine, right? But picks 48 and 49, I get Carson out of Seattle and Lindsey out of Denver. So 1 pick before I came up, Ingram got drafted. I would have substituted Ingram in for Lindsey. Lindsey's kind of falling for me in the depth charts. I'm a little bit worried about the injuries and everything else going on in Denver, but I'll still take Carson and Lindsey. They both are running back 1s for their teams. They both performed in the top 20 last year. I like both of those guys, and that really fills out my running back staff nicely with Elliott, Carson, and Lindsey. One of those 2 running backs should be able to be a starter for me, so I should easily get 2 starters out of those guys. So now I feel very confident after my first 5 rounds where I'll have, 2 wide receivers for sure in Cooper and Thielen, and then 2 running backs for sure with Elliott and Carson I have more confidence in, and then Lindsey is a huge upside play, but, he does have some risk as well. And then the 6th and the 7th rounds, so that's picks number 72 and 73. I went with Westbrook, D.D. Westbrook. Maybe a bit of a reach here to grab him all the way up at 72, but I just like him more than everybody else that's up there. Anderson's usually there for the Jets and some other guys, but I just like Westbrook better. I think Westbrook has the opportunity with a halfway decent quarterback this year to actually do some good work in Jacksonville. And then I took dice. I took a roll of the dice here. I figured I was strong. I have 3 pretty high ceiling, high floor players in Elliott, Carson, and Lindsey. So I went with Geis because I think Geis could be a top 10 running back. And to get him in the 7th round, I picked 73. I think it's a little bit of an overdraft. I think he should be going in the 80s, but I didn't mind taking a risk on him there with that huge upside. And then at 96, Jones was on the board, so I went ahead and took him. I got Ronald Jones in both drafts here. That might have been a mistake in retrospect, but I didn't have any other wide receivers really in that range that I loved. So I went ahead and stuck with Ronald Jones. And then I took McDonald. I love getting McDonald right there. Round 9 makes me feel very happy. Round 9, round 10, he was picked number 97 overall in this draft. I think I like McDonald better at 97 than Cook at 84, but, it's about the same to me, really. So I was a little bit worried about wide receiver. I went with the high upside Westbrook pick at in round 6, D.D. Westbrook. So I decided to go with Humphreys, Adam Humphreys out of Tennessee. He'll be a slot receiver. He'll catch a lot of balls. I mean, he's never going to put up, wide receiver 1 numbers, but he should go out there and get you points every single week. So if I need to plug him in any week, I can. He's a nice player to have on your bench in case somebody goes down for injuries or to fill in for buys. He can certainly get in there, and he'll put up some production for you, and he'll be safe. I paired that. I picked him at 120. With 121, I went with Hardman again. I like having him on my team. Obviously, I took him early, but at this point in the draft, you're just picking your guys, and he's one of my guys. I want to have him late, especially like pairing him with Humphreys, because with Humphreys, you get that security. With Hardman, you get the lottery ticket, and you can always drop Hardman for one of these other safe players later on. I only want to grab like one safe player, then everybody else should be, lottery picks, because you can always get the safe players off the waiver wire. Let's see. Continuing on from there, I took Phillip Rivers again. I got him at 144 in this draft. I felt like that was kind of fortunate. People were starting to take backup quarterbacks at that point, and I felt like I was pretty happy to get Rivers at 144. While I did draft Garoppolo again, this time at 145. I don't want Garoppolo to be my number 1 wide receiver. I want to pair Garoppolo with a more established vet. 3 or 4 times doing these mock drafts, Breeze has gotten taken like 2 or 3 spots ahead of me, in the 11th, 10th rounds, where I would have taken Breeze in that situation, because I think Breeze is a bit of a better quarterback, a little bit of a safer quarterback than Phillip Rivers, even though he didn't pass that much last year. I don't mind taking Breeze there, but he always gets picked like right before I'm ready to select him. So I don't really mind Rivers at this point in the draft, as long as you're pairing him with somebody else. And then this is the first time I've done this. I went ahead and I took Kareem Hunt with my last pick. I guess it would have made more sense to go with a wide receiver, but I wanted to go for a home run swing here because I felt really good about this team. Because if you look at my starting lineup here, we're going to be starting Ezekiel Elliott and then Carson out of Seattle as my running backs. The wide receivers are going to be Cooper and Thielen. And then in your flex, if Geis is going to start, I'm going to start Geis. If Lindsey's starting, I'm starting Lindsey. So I feel very, very good about that lineup with McDonald and Rivers. So if I can get Kareem Hunt, wait on him for 6 months, and then put him into my starting lineup when he takes over in Cleveland. Now, there's no guarantee he will take over in Cleveland, but if he does, he's going to be a guy who is performing like a top 10 or top 20 running back every week, and that's certainly a great shot to take at the end of the draft, as long as you don't have roster problems and you have to move him. And if you do have to move him, so what? I mean, what am I giving up by Madison is still going to be there until there's a problem in Minnesota. So I kind of like that Kareem Hunt strategy. It'd be interesting to hearing what you thought. Do you like drafting Kareem Hunt at the end of the draft? Is he worth it? Where is he going in drafts that you've seen? Let me know. Leave a comment below, or, hit me up on YouTube. Use the podcast. You can reach me there. You can always get a hold of me at mathradio.com. All right. That's it for the show today. If you enjoyed it, please do give us a 5-star rating and a review. I would greatly appreciate it. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button and leave me a question or comment below in the comments. Visit our sponsor at www.mathradio.com, where you can pick up an online math course for you and your child for as little as $9.99. All right, what's going on next week? Next week, we have the tight end position. We're going to be breaking down the top 20. It gets pretty ugly at the end, but we'll be breaking down those players. What else do we have going on? We're going to be doing the NBA free agency starting tomorrow. There should be a lot of moves. I'm already hearing that the Celtics are picking up Kemba Walker. I am hearing that the Nets are going to add Kyrie Irving. And the big news is that Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant seem to want to play together. So that would either be in New York or Los Angeles, one of those two teams. So that could be interesting as well. We'll have more news on that in about 5-6 hours here as the NBA free agency tips off at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. All right, that's it for today then. We will see you tomorrow. Bye.